There we go. And I'm live. Hi, everybody. We are in my room. Um, I have a small hole in my foot. I was, uh, I got the roof repaired. Well, it was a little bit of a challenge to get them to come back and actually clean up all the roofing bits. They sent one guy to do it, and I even gave him the use of my own wheelbarrow because he had nothing else to do it with. And he's trying to like put it in trash bags and they're ripping all apart. It was a mess. But he left a trail through the yard and I found a small roofing nail. Luckily I wasn't in my good shoes, my good sneakers. The good hiking shoes Mike has bought me. I was in a beat up pair for out in the yard. And but don't worry, my tetanus shots are up to date. And it only got in like the tiniest bit because I felt it right away and just froze. Um, just enough to puncture the skin and make it bleed. So I we cleaned it out well, and uh, so we're doing fine with that. I'm doing okay with that. I'm just sitting up here rather than trying to walk downstairs and do a live for an hour at the desk. Look, hands free. I found while we were out for summer camp, we did find um, we did find a Goodwill and a Salvation Army store, and one of them had this little holder arm for your phone, which is great, except it's only got literally just the arm. It doesn't have the bracket that you should be able to screw um, onto something. I thought it did, unless it came off and it's in the back of Michael's car. That's a thought. I better check that because he's leaving for summer camp. Not summer camp. He's leaving for high adventure in the morning, which is why the live for just an hour. So let's see who's here. CDC. Oh, cool. And hello, Nora. How are you? So, um, so anyway, I have to drive first thing in the morning, like early in the morning, because they are driving all the way up to Maine. I want to get a good start on the day for this high adventure trip. Hi, Lorianne. So I have to get up early, like real early, so that there's gear to be picked up um, from the scouts locker, and then we got to get the minivans that they're taking, that they're renting, and then we got to get everybody going, get everybody out the door, go away. So Mike will be gone for a week, little over. Um, but it's it's a lot when you've been gone for a week, you come home, you're not home again for an entire week, and you got to leave again for another what, 9 days? So 9 days, 8 days, 7, 8, yeah, 9, because he's leaving on a Friday. So, but they're going to Appalachian National Park. Anyway, it's an island off the coast of Maine. They're going to drive tomorrow, probably most of the way up, and then they have somewhere to stay, and then they're driving the rest of the way the next day. Because who wants to drive 12 hours straight with a van load of kids that are like 14 years old? Robbie, yes, I did. I have to film. Um, I still have to film a video because I have two packages that came that were surprises from friend mail, and I have the stuff that I picked up at Salvation Army and the Goodwill store out in Stroudsburg, PA. And so I still have to do that. So if you're one of the members of the channel, you'll get that right away tomorrow. And then Saturday morning, it'll go live for everybody. That video, the haul video with the packages I got. Because I got two cool little things. Thank you. Uh, from two different people. We've had a time with the cats since we were gone. We were both gone for a week. And this year seemed to really bother them way more than it did the first time we did this when they were under a year, they weren't very old. They're 2 years old now and they did not take it well. So I did like it. Thank you. So, but they've made their displeasure known. Doctor has not come out of the dining room at all that I've seen during the day. She won't come near me. She's so mad at me still for leaving her alone with the gang of five. She is still mad at me. Gimli, when Mike tried to pack for this trip, laid in the backpack and just wouldn't get out. Nope, would not. If Mike put so much as a pair of socks in, he'd go walk across the room, get more stuff, and he'd find Gimli pulling the pair of socks out, putting it on the bed, climbing back into the bag. He was not having it. So Mike did finally get packed without having Gimli in the pack. No cats can go with him. And for my part, I've had Aragorn on me like white on rice. I mean, so clingy as to be a problem. It's one thing, he follows me through the house everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Okay. He's so upset that the first few days when I'd get a shower, he'd still stay in the room. Now, usually hearing the sound of that water turn on and they all usually bolt out of the bathroom. No, no, no. He would hide under the sink, but he would still stay. He has tried the first night. The first night I did let him sleep in my room with me, but he's such a bed hog, that's an issue. And literally was pushing me out of bed. Uh, but he if I'm working at the desk, he wants to be laying on the desk. Now, the desk in the living room, there is absolutely no way. There is no room at all. So that's a problem. But I've been working on the merit badge stuff and all the paperwork from summer camp because there are issues. Their electronic way of doing it does not connect to our mandatory electronic way of doing it. So, and I'm finding things that from the first night we got it have changed. So I've had to go into each individual merit badge and make sure the kids actually did have all the requirements marked off, and then talk to the kid or get the parent to talk to the kid to find out did they or did they not do this or that requirement. And so while they're saying some things are complete, they're not. And I also needed to write up a training packet for some of the kids going on this big trip this week, this coming week, so that they have stuff they're going to do on the trip to help them finish requirements for merit badges or for rank advancement. So it's been nothing but paperwork. And then I had some government paperwork that was here waiting for me. I got that taken care of. It's been nothing. It just seems like it's been nothing but paperwork and laundry all week. And every step of the way, there's been a cat. So, oh, I did get 3 big things out of my basement. So I live near Rose Valley, PA, which started off as an arts and crafts community beginning in the 1900s. There was a house there once called the McClanahan House. Now, McClanahan was the business partner of the architect Will Price, who started, he and Frank Stevens started Arden, Delaware, and then had a little bit differing ideas. And so he came up here to just outside of Media, PA, and started Rose Valley, PA. And it really was just a place for him to experiment with his ideas for architecture. Not all of them worked. And the McClanahan house was his financial business partner. He was the guy who fronted the money, and Rose Valley pretty much was started for all of their cronies from university to come down from the main line and have, homes out in the what was then pretty much the woods. Uh, so he, the McClanahan house eventually got bought, was owned by a family that I knew the granddaughter. But the structural flaw of the house is it had these wonderful turrets going up the front, but they had wooden floors and no roof over the top of the turret. So there was nowhere for the water to go. And over the decades, they started to slant inward towards the front door, center part of the wall of the front of the house. And it just destroyed like everything in there. It was neglected. There wasn't money to repair it. The house has since been sold by the family and torn down. But before that happened, the my my friend, I convinced her and her husband to let me save these big Mercer tile arts and crafts stone settings. They were big. Okay, so I thought they were about 28 inches. I was off by 2. So they're like 30 inches across the top. They're set in concrete that thick. And they have Mercer tiles that were specifically made in individual puzzle pieces that would create a picture. One of them is a Thunderbird. Half of that one had been on the ground in pieces. I told the guy who picked it up, I think I got all the pieces, but I really have no way of knowing. I tried my best. I picked up every piece of tile I could find out of the pile of rubble that was underneath there from the decades. The other image was some odd, strange little image that I didn't know how to identify. But the key one, Rose Valley has this design called the Rose Valley Rose, and it is the design that is used on everything. It's you've seen me in my Scout t-shirts, and on the side there's Tudor Rose with a V over it for Rose Valley. That became the symbol for the arts and crafts colony that was there. So that's a big deal. And that is in their History of Rose Valley book. The actual diagram from the Mercer Tile Museum, they still had the diagram of it. So it's in the book. But they didn't actually have the original tile. Now, finally, I got a hold of the Rose Valley Historical Society now that they have their own building and have had a chance to get that up and running. And I got a hold of them and said, do you want these? Because I really want them out of my basement. I can't lift them. Sent photos, gave all the history I knew of them. They wanted them. Their curator was like, I don't care what condition they're, we want these, especially that Rose Valley one. So, for the Rose one. So they came and got them. I didn't even charge them money. The whole point was to save them. And so they finally got them. So I'm so happy because they are gone, and that freed up room on one workbench and room on a bench that my grandfather had built that's in the basement. It got the guy actually came, got them, and did me a favor and moved the 2 air conditioners we were given off of the freezer and one on the bench so I can work on it and clean it. It's got a lot of dust inside of it. And then the other one is sitting on the bench my grandfather made. So I can now get into my chest freezer. Yay! I haven't been able to get into my chest freezer since last October because we had nowhere to move them to. So, and they're for different rooms in this house once we can get 2 actual windows to put them in. Maybe next summer. But I'm so happy because finally they're in the right place. I didn't care about the money for those things. To me, it was more important. They had historical value for a historical community that it was important to save. And so I did ask if it would be okay if they gave me 2 years free membership to the Rose Valley Historical Society. By becoming a member, that does get you discounts into some of the talks they do, and or sometimes the talks are free for members. So I asked if that could be the payment because they've had some fabulous talks on local history that I would have loved to have gone to, but they're pricey. And so if they give me the free membership, she had to check with the board to see if that was okay, and the board doesn't meet until this weekend. So I hope to hear soon. But regardless, it was three big things out of the house, and they're where they should be. They are now at the Historical Society's museum, where they can be properly cleaned. They can be properly figured out how they're going to display them. I suggested that the one could be made as a table where you have to match up the pieces, the Thunderbird one, because the backs of the tile pieces, some of them popped off without having any residual concrete on the back, and they all have numbers. So if the Mercer Tile Museum for the Moravian tiles still has the diagram, they could make a table display and have a thing where you can actually put it together, the pieces, and fit them in. And that would be kind of a cool interactive thing. I saw a museum do that with stained glass piece. They reproduced the stained glass, and you had to fit all the pieces together on a light table. And kids and adults really liked it. So I offered that as suggestion, but they're theirs now. So I'm just happy. They are three incredibly heavy things out of my house. Yes. Um, so that's good. That's a good thing. That's a big step forward. They're gone. I haven't heard any more from the city about the front lawn after we whacked all that stuff down, but it needed it, and it needs to be redone heavily on that side. I may bring, if we get a break in the weather, I'm gonna try something. You know how we sometimes talk about repurposing things, reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, I kept my walker, which was good when I hurt my spine, because I'm short. All the height's in the torso, not the legs. So it's actually a child's walker. It's one they use for kids, but it's perfect for me. And I'm wondering that if well, I don't have a sewing machine, so I'd have to try to do it by hand, or rig something up. But if I put a pouch on the front of it that could hold the gardening gloves and the clippers, if I used that so that I could kneel on the ground or sit on the ground, because I can't get back up. I'm wondering if I took that outside with me, could I use that to help get myself back up off the ground? We'll see. But it's heat advisory today and heat advisory again tomorrow. So I won't be doing anything outside yet, but it's a thought. Sometimes we talk about using what you have. That's something I have. So we're gonna test that out and see what we can do. And see if I can get some more gardening stuff trimmed and cut back. And I come down, stuff like that. And I mean, heck, I could cut them, but I can't then move them. So that's all going to wait for him to come home and the weather to break a little bit. But, all that stuff got done. We got that done before we left. I have been I did get the kitchen mostly caught up. I got the refrigerator all cleaned. And of course, as soon as I did all those dishes that were left, Gary cleaned his room and gave me more dishes. So they're now all done. Uh, the only thing I still haven't done is I still haven't mopped the floor. Do need to do that. But, you know, everything can't happen at once, so we stagger it. So I was going to ask you guys something. I knew I should have written it down. So, what do you guys do that helps you perk up your energy for getting a task done? Because there are times when it's one thing if you get into a groove, and that's great when it happens and you can get a lot done. You're in that groove, you're in that mindset. But around here, um, there's lots of interruptions. Usually Gary, sometimes cats, sometimes Michael. So how do you? Oh, hello. What are you? Bouncing off my ceiling? How did you get? Oh, you must have come in through the window where the air conditioner is. What are you? You're not buzzing. It's late at night, but you're not moving like a moth. What the heck are you? Either way, it's going to give itself a concussion on the ceiling. Ah. Hey, hello. I can't lean forward that well. Yeah, the hernias. Huh. But how do you guys get yourself, especially if you've been interrupted, how do you get yourself remotivated to get back to what you were doing with this at least some level of energy and not feeling like just, okay, I've done enough. I'm just giving up because it just gets frustrating when you keep getting interrupted. So I'm wondering how any of you guys deal with that. What are you? Oh, Blinky Blinky, hello. You're a lightning bug. Oh, you are so in the wrong place. You are absolutely in the wrong place. At least the cats aren't in here. They'd be trying to climb up on everything, trying to get to it. Poor little thing. You are so in the wrong room. But better my room than a room full of cats because Aragorn will eat you. He eats it. If he catches it, he's gonna eat it. If he catches a moth, it doesn't matter how big, he's gonna eat it. It's disgusting. Yeah, see who Hoover's corgis. You see what I mean? I mean, you get interrupted like that, and then it's like it's so I you could tell like it builds up the frustration level. So each time it happens, you get more and more frustrated. And then with Gary, it depends. Like the more bored he is, it will be like clockwork. Every 15 minutes, he'll come find me again. And you're just starting to get back into what you're doing. And it drives me crazy because there are times where I will completely forget where I was or on something, and then I have to figure it out. By the time I figure it out, he's back. Which is why the black hole challenge room is going to be the office is going to be the bedroom next door that has the lock on the door so that I can just cats, people, lock the door. Oh, what do you got here? Yeah, see, I've always had a little bit of that, but after having the stroke, the mini stroke at 50, from a medication reaction, I've found that getting that focus back is a lot harder for me. You guys see it because you see me in the middle of a sentence, I can forget what I'm saying. I didn't used to have that until I had that stroke. So that definitely is something that I'm contending with. And I do find it to be very, very difficult sometimes, especially like come interrupt me once, fine, go away for an hour, then come back. Let me actually get some stuff done. And in having all this paperwork to do, and the school tax has come. So I've also now got to figure out, the finances for the rest of the year to cover for that. And, it's just, and I've got all this stuff for you guys, which I've had to wait on. When I came back from camp, the guts down here were not happy. It has taken until today where I have not felt pain unless I bent all the way over to the ground for more than 2 minutes. Because when I came back from camp, the hernias were full and extending, and it was a problem. And then once they were emptied, it was still an issue because they're sore. So today's been the first day where I didn't feel any soreness when I woke up. I haven't felt any soreness when I ate. Mind you, I've also been very careful about what I'm eating. And the only time it twinged today was when I was out back trying to pick up more of the roofing stuff to get it into the trash because tonight's trash night. So I haven't been able to come back from camp and hit the ground running because of physical limitations, but I've been keeping it slow and steady. Little bits of stuff, lightweight stuff. Um, just keeping up with doing what I can. Nothing that requires bending or lifting anything heavy, because this all needs to. It will never heal completely until I have the surgery, but you want that distension to shrink back a bit because even the stomach part was distended. So it's a challenge living with these suckers. Okay. Easier to, oh yeah, to want to do more when yeah, I'll get there. Um, for a lot of years in my life, I would just push through it. I mean, I had one of those dads that just said, "Oh, walk it off." And I've pushed through a lot. I've pushed through a lot to be able to raise Mike. And even when I was not healthy, you push through. This is what moms do. You push through. But there's a detriment side to that. And Mike has made me realize that I don't want to lose you, when you're in your 60s. You need to take care of yourself. So I'm trying to be slow and steady. I don't have an appointment to even be talking to a hernia surgeon until September, since the other one quit. I have to go to a different hospital now. I start all over. So it's going to be a while before this all gets fixed. I was so upset that I couldn't get it done before summer camp. I really wanted it done. But summer camp is my big stress relief for the year. So far, I'm still riding that wave. I am so riding that wave. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And it's funny because even with the air conditioner on, which I hope is not making a loud hum and distracting you guys. But when I got into this room, it was 80 degrees in here with all the windows shut. But the katydids have decided to be in the tree right outside my window. So even with the air conditioner on, I can hear them. So going to sleep at night, it's like going to sleep at camp. I can hear the katydids. It's nice. It's really kind of nice. And I have that set to I have the air conditioner set to 68, which is warmer than what it was 3 of the nights at camp. Thank goodness I had a 0-degree bag, because one night got wicked cold. The full week of July, and one night we had a campfire going, and just the few adults were around. The kids, it was after 10:30, so the kids had to all be in their tents, and we're waiting for them to disappear, to quiet down and all go to bed. So about 11, we decide, it probably would be good now to take that walk around the ring of tents, make sure you don't hear any more talking. If you do, you tell them, hey, that's it, bedtime. It's 11, go to sleep. And as I'm walking, doing the round, I realize that my exhales, I can see them in the flashlight light. I can see my breath. It got that cold that night. And that was before I even went to bed. So yeah, it's something. And it was nice and cool in the low 80s the next day, and then the next storm system wove in and brought all the hot weather back. And then we drove home and got all the humidity back. So, ah, what is it? Oh, you can't. Oh, you can't hear it at all. That's good. Yeah, and we warned all the kids that are going on this high adventure trip. You're going up to an island off the coast of Maine. You're going way north. Make sure you pack some winter gear. You want to take a pair of wool socks. You want to make sure you have long pants. You want to make sure you have a cold weather jacket for at night, because you're going far north. Apparently on this island, there's a big tourist industry for it, because it is the easternmost point of the United States. So it's the first to get the sunrise, and being an island, you get this gorgeous sunrise off the ocean, So, and actually one of my scouts, his brother is an assistant scoutmaster with us. He is actually up there working for the summer. He's actually working as a tour guide for these early morning things on the island to see the sunrise. And we found out, wait till some of these kids get up there, there's no cell phone service. Nope. They are going to disconnect because they have to. This year at camp, they have lockers, and you have to do a $5 deposit to get a key. They have little charging lockers. So the kids couldn't charge up their stuff. So they were all very judicious, most of them, with how often they used their phones or were on them, because they knew that charge had to last. So it was great. Most of them were off their phones. And this high adventure trip, it's going to be the same thing, because Matthew's brother called home and he told them, he says, you're not going to believe where I'm standing to be able to call you. He had to wait for the tide to go out, and he's standing out on the end of a rock jetty, and he literally says, I'm out here balancing on a rock to talk to you, to let you know I'm okay and say hi and check in. But I'm standing in the middle of the ocean in order to do this. It was the only place he could get cell coverage. So this ought to be good. Some of them just, they're not used to that, and they won't have a choice now because there's no coverage on the island. And I don't know where they'd find it. There's got to be electric somewhere, or the one scout, 2 of the men going have CPAP machines. So they will have to have somewhere to plug those in. So there's got to be electric somewhere where they're staying, where they can get that taken care of. But for the phones, there's no service, so what's it matter? So I had to figure out a whole packet of information for those adults that are going that has um, any rank requirements that some of the younger ones need that they can get done, and any requirements for merit badges for partially done merit badges, what they call partials, that some of the older kids have. So, um, and the one I just said, maybe you could just have it as a campfire discussion because one kid did first aid and we had a special thing where we had a chance to go swimming in a natural swimming hole along the Bushkill River. I didn't go, but we let the kids all skip that one afternoon class. So he didn't get his first aid merit badge because he missed the day. And they had from letter A to O of specific things you had to know how to recognize the symptoms for and what to do for them. And there are things like anaphylactic allergy reaction, asthma attack, animal bite, broken fingers, uh, knife wound, uh, all the stuff you could imagine that you might have um, an emergency kind of thing for first aid. So, but there's a lot of them. I can't even remember. Heat stroke was one, hypothermia is another. It's just this huge long list. And so he missed that day. But some of the things on this list are the exact same things that are in the second and first class requirements for the lower ranks, like twisted ankle, splinting a broken finger, uh, recognizing burns, what level, what do you do for each level of burn. So since there's some of the same requirements, I suggested that just to have a brush up too, because so many of our scouts on this trip are 14 or a little younger, to just have it as a general discussion, just to brush them all up on basic camping first aid skills. Because there's a couple of kids from camping that also need to do the first aid part of the camping merit badge, which is the thing about the burns, knife, cutting your finger with a knife, animal bites. That's also in camping. So since it's going to cover two different merit badges and two different ranks, just make it a general discussion. Make sure you go through the list. I wrote out the list for her. I wrote out what the second class requirements were, and I wrote out what the camping requirement was. And they're all cover the same stuff. So just not as in depth or as many as first aid. So if they can get that done, then that means there's 4 young ones for the rank requirement. Alex's first aid merit badge. Rev, Aramal, Alex, Ian, Jackson, Jesse. I'm missing 2 more because I had 15 total kids that if they did that would have requirements done, which would be fantastic. And there's 14 kids, 14, because Jesse's part of the 4 younger ones. So 14 kids, and they're taking 15 kids on the trip. So there's one there who doesn't need this, but he's an older scout. He's 17. And so he's going because his dad and his brother are going. So it's a chance to have a trip. They went to summer camp too, because this is the only year they have where all 3 of them can go on this as scouts, because he's going to age out before next summer camp. So, and it was his little brother's first summer camp. And the kid has so much camping experience. It's the only reason that he and 3 others are being allowed to go on a high adventure trip is because their skill level is so high because the families do a lot of camping and have since they were born. So they've been given special permission. Usually, high adventure trips, we don't let anybody under the age of 14 go. But these guys are all 12 and have a huge amount of experience behind them. So, hi, Marcy. How are you? So, I've been looking through some things. Whenever I stop at Briggs Auction House, the rare times I ever pick anything up from them, I pick up whatever ones of Antique Week they have. This one's got a whole article on poodles, but check out all those pins. Wait, which end has the camera? There's the camera. There we go. Check out all those poodle pins. I've seen that one before. I know that one is a white enamel pin with a rhinestone eye. Even though you can't tell from the picture very well, but I've seen that exact one. Haven't seen the others before, but I find these really helpful because they'll have articles, like the cover article on this one is all hat pins. Look at the different handles. My favorite, there's these two. So this one is the Scottish thistle with an amethyst stone, actually cut to resemble a thistle. And then this one is a sword, but they're all hat pin handles. They're pretty cool looking. But there's a whole article in here on hat pins. One of the other ones I have had an article from, because I picked up all the back ones they had that I hadn't seen yet. But one of them had an article on Hull pottery. The Hull Collectors Association had some kind of a show in May in Ohio. And so they had pictures from that, which was really cool because it was a way to learn more and recognize Hull. I was puttering around and I knew I had tucked this somewhere. I bought this ages ago and I just found it. And I got it for fall decoration. Isn't he cute? Now I know he's missing his little snail dingly bopper thingies, but I'll figure out something for them. But looking at it, you'd never know until you turn it this way and you can see this dark line right in here that it had been broken. This limb had broken off, and luckily though it cracked through, but he's not cracked. It didn't break his leg or anything, but it did take off the little dingly bits. So it's not fall yet, and you can't tell from this side, but you can if you could see under it. There's a line where the glue is under his tail. But if you show him from that side, you can't tell at all. So he's one of my, I think I got this from Trisha. I'm trying to remember who I bought it from. It's been a while. But I think I got it from Trisha from Sandy and Otto. He is actually a masterpiece by Home Co. It doesn't have a year on it, but it's got its little tag. But I just love chipmunks, red squirrels, hedgehogs. I think they're just really cool for fall decorating. Because, fall decorating doesn't have to be all pumpkins and black cats. Save that for Halloween. And with that kind of decorating of, some of the little creatures, red squirrels and hedgehogs, and you can have that out from September through November. And I like to decorate with snowmen because I can leave that out. You can leave that out all of December and January. So that's why I kind of like certain things to decorate with. I like to be able to get more than 1 month out of them if I can. You can't always do that though, because you can't do that with St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day so much, but or 4th of July stuff. Though 4th of July stuff, if you started and have it out for Memorial Day, that still works. So you could kind of stretch that one longer. Um, oh yeah, turning leaf colors, absolutely. I've got some wonderful stuff packed away. That's um, a friend used to sell party light and always would invite me to these things, but I was always really judicious about what I bought. And I have these three wonderful candle holders, and they just take a tea light, but they're meant to go as on your table as centerpiece. And one is red, one is yellow, and one is orange. And they're fairly big. They're about that big. And I just thought they were really cool. And I bought two sets, one for me, and I gave one to my sister as a birthday present because her birthday's the day after Christmas. And she's used them. I've seen them at her house quite a few times in the fall. She's really liked them and used them a lot as, nice centerpiece on the dining room table. So they're pretty cool looking. And the nice part is that um, they're not meant for food use, but I've seen her not necessarily use them for with the candle, but her daughter would go pick up acorns in the woods that are part of their property, and she would just put a pile of acorns on them and have that be the decoration. Which I thought, was a creative way to do it. It looked pretty cool. So yeah, see, I can't do a bunch of decorating. And the stuff that I have the most for is Christmas and Halloween. Partly also because a lot of people have bought me Christmas stuff over the years because I collect fairies. That used to be a lot harder to find. Now they're everywhere. I try not to get resin fairies because if resin breaks, you can't really fix it. So I still try to look for fairies that are vintage. I do have some Amy Brown fairies. Those are pretty cool. Hard to find. I think I've only got three. But those are pretty neat. And I think those are resin. I don't think they're porcelain. But I try to look for the porcelain ones that are vintage. Though vintage nowadays is anything. Am I wrong? Vintage is anything before the year 2000, which to this, first year Gen Xer, that just makes me feel old. Really, really old. Especially when I see people. Oh my. I had to tell you about this one before I go. I had to explain pet rocks to some Boy Scouts. I never realized until that moment just how wacky some things from the 80s really were. Pet rocks. One of my first jobs, I used to sell pet rocks because it was for Spencer Gifts. And I sold pet rocks. So one of the kids came up and was joking around. He found this little rock like this, little tiny thing, no bigger in diameter than a quarter. But it was neat looking because it was really shiny. It probably wasn't obsidian, but it looked like, and you see those kind of black rocks every so often, all over the place. But it was nice and shiny, and it just happened the way it broke apart. It was almost a square cube. And so he was going to keep it because it's odd shape and he just thought it was cool. And he kept saying it was his pet rock. And I finally went, that's not a real pet rock. That's a baby rock. And he says, what? And I explained about pet rocks. And the part these guys could not get over that completely blew their minds was not the fact that you could get a punk rock pet rock that had a strip of long-haired fur like a mohawk down it. It was not that you could actually get a wedding set for your pet rock. It was a veil for the girl rock and a bow tie and a top hat for the male rock. Because yes, there were little outfits for pet rocks. And the wide variety of pet rocks, that was fine. They thought it was funny, great, no problem. And then I said, they came in a little box like that carrier, a cardboard carrier you can use to take you that you get from the pet store. And so it has air holes in the top, but it folds shut so you can carry your cat to and from the vet. And they went, what, no. And I went, what do you mean no? It's a rock. Why does it need air holes? And I'm like, that's the point. It's your pet. It's a pet rock. Pets need to breathe. No, they just could not make that leap. They were fine with the mohawk. They were fine with any of them having hair or any little weird thing they did to them. Didn't matter. All that was good. The idea that it came in a box that looked like a vet carrier with air holes in it was a step too far for these 14-year-olds. They just could not. They were going, no, I got to see this. And so two of them pulled out their phones and searched pet rock. And I said, the one that seems to fetch the most money, because people still collect these things, is that if you have a pet rock in its original box, that's pretty good. But if you have the punk rock pet rock with the original box, and some kid found one that had sold on eBay for something crazy like $50, $60 for a rock. They just could not wrap their brains around it. Oh yeah, there was a wedding set. Yeah, towards the end of their cycle, there was a wedding set for pet rocks. Yeah. Oh yeah, right? $5 each. I had forgotten that, but yeah, I knew they didn't. They weren't real expensive. But yes, there was a wedding set. It just blew their minds. There was something else we looked up, and I forget what it was. And one had just sold for $6,000. And I had found it. I found it on an auction site. And I'm like, well, if you have this, and it was something goofy, and I cannot remember what it was. But it was some toy thing, and that somebody brought up, and from the 80s, and $6,000. Now I can't remember what it was, but yeah, they got a real lesson real quick. One of them said, my dad would have been a teenager then, in his early teens. I got asked him if he had a pet rock. He said, I'm going to take it from him and sell it on eBay. Like, I don't think anybody still has their pet rock. Some might have them. I never had one. I just didn't see the point. I sold them, but I didn't see the point. I do know to watch for them. But oh yeah, it's so funny sometimes. what can be. Oh, yeah, Lisa Frank. I sold, so from a long while ago, pre-pandemic, I think. No, because I started the channel. I started the channel in 2020. Um, at one point, I went through my old sticker box, and if there's a video of it, I sold all my Lisa Frank. I sold a bunch of stationery. I sold the stickers. Didn't matter if they were loose or not. Lisa Frank stuff sells like crazy. Some of the stickers, because that box is a bunch of loose ones, and sometimes I would just cut them apart so that they'd be individual stickers. And I pulled out a bunch of stuff from that and sold it. But yeah, I absolutely sold a lot of my old Lisa Frank stuff. And actually, when I do the haul video, there's a Lisa Frank item that I found that's going to be in that haul video. I haven't even looked it up yet. Didn't care. It's Lisa Frank in the original container. I don't even know how old it is, but it's Lisa Frank. So I think I got that from Salvation Army, but I just bought it. I didn't care. I just bought it. The price was right. It was Lisa Frank. So you have a pencil sharpener. Yeah, see, sometimes you can't find this stuff. I have sold stationery. I've sold individual cards. I used to work in a Hallmark shop. I also used to work at Ula Candies, and of course, being a candy store, you had a whole bank of gift cards. Most of those were Boynton, and I have found that some of the Boynton cards sell. If you find Kleban, Kleban cards, he did a lot of artwork that was this striped cat that was black and white stripes, and it was just like a pen and ink drawing. If you find any of that stuff, they tend to sell pretty well. Boynton Bears. Boynton also had hippos and a couple other things, but their artwork stuff for stationery, mugs, anything, they tend to sell as well. So yeah, it's when I went into that corner over there to clean up after Arwen made a mess, I still have a pile this high. I just took it all and put it in a box. That's all just bits of stationery, cards, some stationery. There's a box over there that I'm looking at that is nothing but stationery. There's another box over there that I think might be stationery. Actually, that might be the wine glasses. But yeah, I have tons of stationery. But I used to have about 50 pen pals, and I really do miss that. I had pen pals all over the world because in the 70s, that was a huge thing. I had 3 that I lost touch with, and I really wish I knew where they were. Elaine Stokel was in Britain, and Sharon Stiebel was in Nova Scotia. And then Tim Burdett, well, I know where he is because we found each other on Facebook. I had known Elaine, Sharon, and Tim since 5th grade because it was part of a program in the school to have pen pals. And so, and I got to meet Elaine and I got to meet Tim. I never did get to meet Sharon. But I'd love to find out, how the other 2 are doing. I know how Tim's doing. He's in England, married to a lady with 2 wonderful boys that he's helped raise. One of them has gotten married. He's a granddad now, so that's been cool. But I do miss having pen pals. What have you got here, Hoover? Yeah, I know I have some Hallmarks that I have duplicates of. There's a fairy collection where they put out a flower fairy every year. And for years, a friend of mine has always bought it for me. But when it first started, somehow I ended up with 4 of the very first one they did, which was the Poinsettia Fairy. So I have 4 of the first one. I don't need 4 of the first one, but they're all packed away in the attic and in the hall closet on the 3rd floor landing, and I found one in the kitchen in a box this year. So one of them's in a box downstairs. So yeah, when we can finally get to that attic, I'm gonna have to like purge my own Christmas stuff some, and I know I'm gonna have duplicates. Mischievous Kittens, I love them. I don't have all of them though. I That series has gone on for so long that I started getting like pretty judicious of the which ones I wanted. Um, Snoopy Scouts. I will take anything at Snoopy Scouts. I don't have many of them, but I have a few. I'm always on the lookout for more stuff that's the Snoopy and Wood Scout. Snoopy and Woodstock Scouts. Oh yeah. Yeah, some are. Some are. And having worked in a Hallmark store briefly, there's some things I have that were like store exclusives. And she would from back in the 90s. So yeah. I have some really cool Christmas stuff. Definitely have some cool Hallmark stuff. I don't know that I would get rid of my Harry Potter, the few Harry Potter ornaments I have. Um, I don't have many of those, but I don't know. I'll have to see when I get to it. Um, there's a couple of other ones that over the years I've been given that I'm okay. I could live without those for a while. I have so many ornaments. I could have a tree that's nothing but fairies and magical stuff. Um, I don't actually have that much vintage, though my parents' vintage Christmas stuff is still here. Um, but it's kind of buried up there. So at some point that'll have to get divvied up to find out if anybody wants any of it. Because I said I would do that, but I can't do it because cannot get to it. So we'll have to get that dealt with. Um, but yeah, there'll be a purge at some point. Oh yeah, you quit keeping track. Yeah. Hi, Grace. What is it? It's not like it used to be, but yeah, the tabletop stuff. Yeah, some of the tabletop stuff they have is really nice. But I was so happy to see that they did Scout Snoopy. And then I didn't realize just how much stuff is out there that's Scout Snoopy. Um, I don't have very much, but I'll keep an eye out for it. And one of my Scout Snoopy things got broken. One of the earlier ones was bigger than what they put out now, and it's Snoopy and Woodstock in a canoe, and it fell off the tree um, because of a small little boy who's not so small anymore, and it broke. I still have the parts, but I have the parts, but I keep finding them separately. So they're not together. And I haven't been able to find a replacement. So what we got? Oh, Ein had friends that um they would have 3 to 4 trees every year. There was a tabletop tree in the dining room that was just those 24 karat gold plated fancy ornaments. You know, the ones that it's usually a commemorative for some building or some special event. And so they had a bunch of those. And so there was a tabletop tree in the dining room that had those on it. Then there was another tree that was all ornaments that looked like Victorian toys and little Victorian-esque kind of things on it. And then depending on what theme they wanted to go with would be the big tree that was in the living room. And then then they had a house with a sunroom in it, so there'd be a tree in the sunroom. So yeah, they collected ornaments. So, and they would rotate through what they had them all separated and marked in the boxes what box was what theme. And so they would separate through. It was pretty interesting, but I could definitely do it. I know another friend has he has a Disney tree, and he says they're all his daughters. Well, your daughter is older now and she lives in Washington D.C. and her husband works for the president. Don't you think you should give her Disney stuff now? But I mean, I don't know how old she is now. She's older than Michael. I think she's getting near 40 and he's just about to turn 30 the end of August. So yeah, he's got quite a few really cool old Hallmark, and all but one ornament he has all the original boxes for. So it's so easy to go overboard. My mother used to buy all of us girls, her two daughters and her two daughter-in-laws, doll ornaments. She would look for very unique ones. We would go out the day after Christmas and hit up Macy's, Strawbridge and Clothier, hit up all the main department stores looking for those to buy, while they were on clearance, and she would save them for the following year. And so my sister made a wreath out of hers. I've sold some of mine at live sales in the past. I'm sure there's a couple more. There's one or two that they do mean something to me. But I'm okay with sending them out there. I think all told, Phyllis added some that she found to fill out the wreath. But I think she said all told that we each should have like 14 or 16 of these things. So some of those are there. Okay, what's popping up? Don't bend the flaps back on the box. That's kind of hard to not open it. What if you have Hallmark, what you really don't want to do is do not take that little price tab off the side of the box. That's a big no-no for the collectible market. They want that tab to be on there with the little price tag thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff, and I can't even get to it. One thing at a time. I'll get there. I'll definitely get there. I've gotten um well, recycling goes out on Tuesday nights, and because I could purge a bunch of paperwork from summer camp, plus I had gone through, I found a box that said important papers on it. Hiking shoes was what the box was. So it's size big enough, but that's like about this high. It was stuffed. Important papers. These papers were from 1998. So anything with a social security number or any kind of account number all got shredded. Gave it to Gary. He's got a shredder. Gave him something to do. He loves it. And The rest all went in the recycling. So I had filled the bin. Plus, I had a box because, sometimes we shop at Aldi's and they don't have bags. And if you forget your tote bags, you're walking around hoping to find an empty cardboard display box so you can use that. So we had two of those in the kitchen. And then I just started filling them up with boxes from, food stuff, cereal boxes. They could be recycled. So we had that out. So I had a lot of recycling out that got out of here, which was good. A lot of paperwork purged, and that was good because I really had to be careful. I couldn't found out very quickly I couldn't pack stuff because I couldn't keep bending over into the boxes. So I couldn't do any packing for you guys. I did I did try to get some stuff sorted out because I'm trying to get all the books together so I could do a big media mail packing for all of you guys. I'm annoyed because I'm missing a magazine. I don't know where I put it that's supposed to go to one of you. I found all the other books. And then I realized some of them I left in the dining room. So I got to get in there again. But I'll manage. So, oh, it's after midnight. I should go. What's that? The year you graduated from high school. Oh, wow. Yeah, I graduated in 1984. I was 19. Yeah. It sometimes is a challenge because you do want to keep your financial record. They can go back as far as it used to be 7 years. I think for most people it's 5. Um, I saw an interesting statistic that there are more audits going on now because they've actually funded the IRS to get more accountants and more tax lawyers. But the majority of what they're going after now is people who make over $500,000 a year because these are the ones where, some stuff might not be reported or it's, you know, issues. They don't often audit the little person. So, and they're also looking into corporations, which are notorious for not having their crap together, yet getting away with it for years. Yeah, I should have a nice weekend. I know, though, with Mike gone, I'm probably going to be sleeping in his room because this, especially since we were gone so far, Gimli has like been following Mike around a lot. Um, the first 3 days, they all were like checking on where were both of us. Even Frodo. Frodo, I woke up with Frodo sleeping next to me. Frodo has never ever in 2 years I've never had Frodo sleeping next to me. But the first 2 nights we were home, I purposely didn't like latch the door. So once they figured out that they could get into my room, I'd wake up and I would have Gimli and Aragorn, Gimli usually at my feet, Aragorn laying on my feet, pinning me into the bed. And then Frodo was next to my head, and I'd wake up not being able to breathe. So, so if I figure the first 2 nights he's gone, if I sleep in his room, he's got a queen size bed. There's plenty of room for the cats to sleep on the bed, and then they'll be less clingy, I think, because I'm staying home, and he'll just be the one gone. But I know that's gonna bug. We already know that's gonna bug Gimli. When he saw Michael packing, he already made it known he wasn't happy by continually going back into the duffel bag backpack thing that he was packing in and pushing the clothes out and putting crawling back into it. So yeah, that was an issue. But I have to be up in less than I have to be awake again in less than 6 hours. So I need to go to bed. And once I get him out of here, I'm going to come back and do my exercises. This is not a plug. They aren't funding me in any way. But there's a app called WalkFit, and they had a special. So for 1 month, it was just under $16. Once it gets past that, then it's closer to 40. So I'm not keeping it past the first month, but every day you can fine tune it to what your impact is. So mine is for stamina and hips and legs, because that's where most of my weight is right now. I look like a giant pear with a chest. And so they're low impact, and you can pause the workout. So I'm doing that now. So I've got to try. I figure since I'm paying for it, I'm going to keep doing it every day. They're only 15 minutes. It's a thing about going and walking, but if all you can do is the workout, then that's fine. It's 15 minutes. If you can't do it all at one time, because my stamina is crap, I get through half of it and then I've got to stop. Because we're targeting my legs, my upper thighs tire out so fast, especially that left side that had been affected by the stroke. But I have found I'm already, and I've only been doing it for 3 days, I am already sleeping better at night and having less trouble breathing because I was getting fluid buildup in the chest again. And congestive heart failure runs in the family. I want no parts of that. So far it's been difficult stamina wise, but it's been good. And there's no bending at all. It's all, side steps, marching in place. There's a couple other steps they do, but it's all that and stuff with your arms. I am not coordinated, so I am not getting the arms and the legs in the right place at the right time, but I don't care. It's movement. It's movement. And that matters. So it's been a help. It's been a help, and I'm hoping to learn these exercises so that I can then do it on my own for the coming months after this first month payment is done. So I'm still working. I'm working on me and the house. I'm probably in a better mental state than I've been in a couple of months because of camp. Telling you, it's my detox for the year, and I am still riding that nice wave. I'm going to run with it as far as I can, especially since one of the distractions won't be here for a week. So I'm going to go. If you like my videos, by all means, subscribe and know that, we are the cheerleaders for each other to help get our own stuff in order, because our kids don't want to inherit all our stuff. And so we will work our way through it one day at a time, baby steps if you need to, big steps when you can. And I will see you guys next Thursday. I'd like to try to do a work with me, but it depends on the weather. That playroom, which is where I need to be, has no ventilation and gets stifling hot. So I don't really want you guys seeing me working in there where I'm literally in a wife beater t-shirt, tank top kind of thing. I'm too self-conscious for that. So we'll see if we get to work with me in on the weekend. Not sure about that, but I will get that haul video up and running. So I believe Steph Sells Stuff by the Seashore is doing a live sale tonight. She should be on now if any of you care to go see who else is on. And I will see you guys next Thursday. I'm off my schedule. I don't know if next Thursday would be a sale or a chat or what. I'm really kind of holding off on the sales because I've got such that backlog. I mean, the backlog is now down to just 4 pages of people, but it's still there. And I want to really knock all that out, especially as now that I found some of the stuff, because honestly, that was a problem. Some stuff was blocked, and some stuff is still blocked in the dining room. But I got out of there what I had room to put in the basket to get out of there to get it packed. And we'll get you guys going and get you your stuff because I'm really don't want to add to that long list some of you have, and you guys have all been wonderful about it. I thank you so much. But just remember, you'll get an email first, and if there's anything on the list that you no longer want, that's fine. Just let me know, because after all, the backlog's my fault, not keeping up with it. So if you've changed your mind about anything and want to back out of it, that's fine. It's okay. Don't feel bad, because it's me taking accountability for me falling behind. So it's okay. Um, so with that said, I'm going to get to bed. You guys have a great weekend. Stay hydrated, stay safe. This weather all across the country, even into Canada, between the wildfires, the flooding, the heat, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you guys next Thursday night, probably at 10 o'clock, if I don't see you sooner. All right? Have a good night, everybody. Bye.